Hi, so today I want to talk to you about one of my favourite authors of all time, and that is Daphne du Maurier. She is just absolutely incredible. And in my last video, I spoke about her book, The Scapegoat, and I compared that to Brat Farrer by Josephine Tay. So if you missed that video, go and check it out. It's on my channel. I'll probably link it down below as well. But today I want to talk to you about some more of her deep cuts because she wrote so many books. And I feel like everyone kind of knows about Rebecca, and some others like Frenchman's Creek and Jamaica Inn probably that a lot of people are aware of, and then The Birds is probably her most famous short story. But she wrote so much. She wrote fiction, non-fiction, short stories, plays, probably more stuff that I don't even know about, probably poems. I would not put it past her, and everything I've read by her is so amazing, and I want to talk to you about some of my favourite deep cuts today. I am nowhere near finishing her bibliography. One of my goals is to read every book by Daphne du Maurier, and I thought I was getting there, and then I was having a snoop on her website recently, and I'm just not anywhere close. But I have read a large chunk of her fiction now, and I'm excited to talk about two of her books today. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Julius, and the second one is The Loving Spirit. Both of these are absolutely incredible in their own ways. If you have not heard about them, please stick around and find out, because these are books that you do not want to miss. These are both 5-star books that I love. This is one of my favourite books of last year, if not my favourite book of last year. And I just think these are both absolutely incredible. So if you want to hear about some Daphne du Maurier books that you've probably not heard of before, please stick around. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Let me know in the comments down below your favourite Daphne du Maurier book. I think most people's is probably Rebecca, for a good reason. It is an amazing book, but she has so many others that I need to talk about, and I eventually want to talk about all of her books on here probably over the next God knows how many years. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video and stick around to find out more. The Loving Spirit was Daphne du Maurier's first book, and it was published in 1931, and the title comes from a line from a poem by Emily Bronte called Self-Interrogation, and that makes sense once I start talking about the book, because this is very much in the vein of a Wuthering Heights type story or East of Eden. If you enjoy those books, you will probably love this. I love multi-generational family sagas, and that is what this is. It covers 4 generations of characters, all from the same family, all living in the same town. It's called Plyn, and they live and die there, and Plyn is, like most of du Maurier's books, a character in its own right. She creates settings like no one else, and I was so disappointed when I finished this book and I looked up Plyn and I found out it was not a real place, because I could just see the beaches, the cliffs, everything, the whole town in my head so clearly, because she paints such a beautiful picture of this town. But anyway, so this follows 4 generations of the same family, and they all kind of work around shipping and shipbuilding and stuff like that, because the town of Plyn is like a shipbuilding town back when that was kind of a thing, and they have the most detailed, rich, beautiful, tragic lives, and you follow 4 generations, so it is a little bit of a thicker book, but every generation is so well tied together, and the way that Daphne du Maurier makes all of the characters so distinct, because there's a lot of characters but everyone is so distinct and individual and unique, and because they are all from the same family, they kind of have this legacy within them of the trauma that comes before, which is absolutely beautifully done. And I thought that the way that she connected them all together through this spirit, the loving spirit, is kind of this idea of, you know, generational trauma and stuff that carries on, not just trauma, just generational ideas and morals and stories, and the way that it travels through the whole family line is so beautiful, and I just absolutely adored the way that this book was written. Each generation transitions into the next one so naturally and so smoothly, and you kind of follow 4 main protagonists. You kind of follow one main character from each generation of the family and really get to know them in depth, and there's so much like family lore that travels on and all these complex relationships. There's a whole web that weaves throughout the entire town, and you know, sins of the father travel onto the child, stuff like that, but it is just so impeccably written, that it's just no surprise, because Daphne du Maurier is just one of the most talented writers ever, and her writing is just so beautiful, and she just brings these creative, unique characters to life in this beautiful setting, and the whole thing is just done so fantastically. And I feel like I'm not really talking about any plot points, because there is just so much that happens in the book, but it never feels overwhelming, because she really gets you to know the characters in depth before anything really starts to turn, and the like stories that travel on throughout each one just makes so much difference in your understanding of the family. And you know, by the time you're in the 4th generation, even though it's sort of new characters, it's also not, because you watch people grow from childhood until their death, and characters that appear in the background of earlier sections then become more prominent later on, and it's just so clever. And if you love Wuthering Heights, you'll probably love this because that is kind of a similar premise. Du Maurier loves the Brontes. She was a huge Bronte stan. She wrote the biography on the Bronte brother, Branwell, and she is definitely inspired by Wuthering Heights, and that is one of my favourite books of all time. So it's no surprise that I love this as well. East of Eden as well. If you've ever read East of Eden, you get the kind of vibe of what's going on here with the different families and different generations of the same family. So yeah, I've been very vague about like the actual plot details of this because it's more just about getting to know the characters. It's like a really interesting character study, but there's so much drama that goes on. There's characters that you love to hate. There's characters that you hate to love. There's some evil, despicable people who get their comeuppance, and all around it's just a fantastic book. Julius was published in 1933, and what sets this book apart from most other books, to be honest, is that the main character is actually a horrible, despicable, not nice person. He is the definition of an anti-hero, and we follow him from his birth in a rural, small, poor town up till his death as he explores the world, conning people, making up schemes, chasing money. He's honestly a despicable person. Like, he does not care about anyone else apart from his daughter. And even then, he's still not particularly nice. He just has a little bit of a soft spot. So this is a really interesting character study because Daphne du Maurier is wanting us to root for and sympathise with this man who is consistently not nice to anyone in his life. And he does some really horrible things throughout the entire book. But because you spend so much time with him and you really start to understand him on a really deep level, it does play with your head a little bit and tries to force you to sympathise with him. So I thought this was so clever, and I really just loved following Julius because it's just so fun to read about someone different, someone that you're not particularly wanting to root for or support, and you don't want good things to happen to them, but you're still reading about them anyway. And the way that she crafts the book is just really interesting to me. Something that I have to talk about, since we just talked about it anyway, is Wuthering Heights. So I think, again, Wuthering Heights was a big influence on this. I think that Julius was influenced by the character of Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights, just based on like their actions and their personality and characterization. I think that Heathcliff's is more of a sympathetic character a little bit, but you really get to know Julius very well, and I loved him, to be honest, by the end. Not because he was a nice person, but just because he was so three-dimensional. And like I always talk about Daphne du Maurier books, she creates settings so beautifully, and instead of focusing on one place in Julius like she normally does, we travel all throughout Europe, and a little bit of Africa as well when we're following Julius's life, and she makes every place come alive so beautifully. There's so much description and beauty put into every single place that Julius goes, which contrasts with how nasty and despicable he is as a person. And it's just such a really fun read. I think Daphne du Maurier is really clever in the way that she can play with your expectations of what characters should and shouldn't be. And this is one of the best examples of that because there's not many authors out there who actually, I feel like it is becoming a little bit more of a trend recently, but I feel like I personally have not read that many books where the main character is just downright not a nice person. So it was a very interesting read, to say the least. I think that you cannot go wrong with Julius or The Loving Spirit. Both are absolutely fantastic books. So whether you are more interested in deep family drama with multi-generational stories or despicable, nasty main characters who will really push your boundaries, and the fun of the book is really just seeing how far they will go to achieve their goals, Daphne du Maurier has you covered with one of these two books. Like I said, really want to review all of her books at some point as I read them, or in the future, because she is just a fantastic author. And if you have not read any of her books, I would say start with Rebecca just so you get a flavour for her most popular work. But she has so many interesting stories and characters and places and just everything. I can't describe how much I enjoy her work enough. So if you enjoyed hearing about these books, definitely check them out. Please hit the subscribe button if you're new, and again, leave a comment down below, tell me your favourite Daphne du Maurier book, or if you've not read any Daphne du Maurier books, do you think you will? I highly recommend it. I think if you love literature, there's no reason not to, because her books aren't like even difficult reads. She isn't like some super flubbery writer. Like, all of her descriptions and everything are just so perfectly done, and even though technically these are kind of classics, 1930s, they read so modern that there's really just no reason not to read them. I don't know. I can't understand why anyone would not want to read her books. Anyway, I'm rambling now, so thank you so much for watching. Again, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Let me know your thoughts on these books if you read them, and I will see you in my next video.